Okay, hi there, guys. Hope you can hear me loud and clear. Just give me a thumbs up or or something in the chat, and we'll get organised. Now, I know Paul, whether or not he's listening, he's given in his absence card for the day. He's out and about driving around, so hope you're enjoying yourself, Paul. Alrighty, Murray, g'day, mate. All right, let's just get up and running. Not too many people at the moment. I guess we'll slowly come in. Welcome to Trade Setup in the live stream. It's the 26th of July. So not a bad day all in all. I'm finding there's quite a few little setups popping up, so it's quite good. Even though the market's actually down, I don't know what the last is. I know they were down just before. The banks are pretty much dragging the market down, and like old Bitwise said, it's options expire. So anyone that knows much about options, um, it's all over the show. The markets can get bullied around a bit, so there's pretty much funny buggers going on during those expiry. But yeah, it's been an interesting couple of days. The market's been pretty much contrary to what's going on, or contrarian to what's happening over in the US, which makes a bit of sense. We are getting a bit extended, so we'll take a look at that in a minute. Before we get into it, for anyone that's new, the top left-hand corner, you'll see us at Twitter. You'll see you can join us at Twitter at trade_setup. Top right is Facebook. That's our Facebook handle. And the bottom right is YouTube. So subscribe to us at YouTube, and you can watch anything we chat about just on that. All right, let's get stuck into it then. Let me just minimize that. What do I do? Just go transition that. There we go. So you should see the screen, the full screen on your computer now. And just let me know too if we just if we drop out every now and then. So now the markets, it's been good in the US, but it hasn't seemed to have flowed on as much as what would be expected into our market. So we're pretty much break even at the moment. So we're up 0.2, and that's pretty much made back from the losses earlier on in the day. The banks, I'm seeing that they're dragging the index down a bit. You can see, I don't know if they're actually up. So they're up on the session. They're probably coming into yesterday's close. That's Westpac there. Yeah, look, CBA is slightly above where it closed yesterday. NAB is slightly down, and ANZ's down. ANZ's probably got a bit of a lagger at the moment, but they are still looking to me a bit top heavy. You can see that that's on we've got the daily chart there. It seems to be rolling over now. It has on the weeklies. Actually, I don't mind ANZ. I'm going to keep an eye on these. So I've got my eye on the banks. I think there's going to be some value in those. I'm just looking for that. I've been trying to be patient, just looking for a bit of a pullback. I think the weeklies are well and truly overextended, and that would match off the ASX as well. It's the dailies looking a bit heavy, so we'll see if we can get a bit of a pullback on that. Even if it does pull back here, I mean, it can easily just pop up and continue on that daily trend up. They don't have to pull back on the weekly, but I just would like a bit of heat to come out of that market. Pretty much that anchor, yeah, your daily anchor to this uptrend is around 27.75. Is this high low just in here? This is on ANZ anyway. So I want to keep an eye on that to see if we can pull back and get an entry. Otherwise, a deeper correction on the weekly. They're pretty much all in the same boat. A very similar sort of price action anyway. CBA is looking a bit top heavy as well. Westpac seems to be breaking down. You can see this is what catches people off guard. A bit of a breakout there if you're trading Westpac at that stage, looking for it to break out of the highs. It broke out at 29.98, got to high of 30.06, and it's been reversed ever since. So that's the problem with. I mean, washouts do happen. They happen time and time again. They're more common in obviously indices and currencies than shares, but it's the top shares, the bigger shares that do wash out quite a bit. And that's just to take a bit of heat out. There's people that will buy on the breakout and they get turned around and get stopped out on the way back down again and putting them back on the sidelines. So it's just chopping the market around a bit. So yeah, that's looking, again, it's looking a bit top heavy. So we're just looking for that, the high low to start building. on the weekly basis, and then I think there could be some really handy trades on the banks. That aside, we've got that's the S&P. Look at that. That's triggering along nicely. It's trading up to the highs where we're at 28.72, closed at 28.48. So we're pretty much within striking distance of those highs and making all-time highs on the S&P. So it's a very strong market over there. There, obviously the tariffs, um, the trade war, all the issues around surrounding that are capping any sort of major rally. But the market, the underlying market is strong. It's really, like I said before, they're weighing up between strength in the market, good solid strength that's happening now, or what's going to happen in the future with regards to, and we don't know that yet. That is only an assumption that if the trade war continues, companies are going to be constrained. The growth is going to be constrained because of the tariffs and all these sorts of things. Not the whole market, not every stock, obviously, but a lot will be constrained. That's going to constrain the indices and constrain growth. And then what we're seeing, the good solid economic growth we're seeing now, not really quite good in the future. But those tariffs had to be put in place first. So I think if they do start getting put in place, then we could be in for a bit of a move down that on the index. But until then, what the market's dealing with now is strong underlying economic growth in the US. But we're locally just not reacting to that as well. The Dow breaking through this previous high, so it's what we said before on Monday, looking good. The weekly is, I mean, look at that weekly. That chart, I love it. It looks really, really nice. It looks quite solid just to tick along and target those highs as well. What's the S&P? The S&P pretty much the same. The S&P looks pretty much a little bit ahead of it, so that the S&P is a broader market. Now the FTSE weekly, that looks like it could trigger up through the highs. This is not bad price action. What we've seen is that big sell-off, took out quite a few levels, and then pretty much a whole year of price action, a whole year hovering around, grinding out some gains through 2017 was taken out in the first quarter, pretty much, probably the first few months. That is Feb. Yeah, pretty much Feb took out those lows, and we obviously went a bit lower than that, but first few months took out a whole year's of gains on the FTSE, but it's turned around and retraced quite strong, pushed into the highs just back in May, and it's just been holding up. So that the fact that it's holding up here is actually quite nice, and you can see when we're looking at stochastics, that's starting to roll over. It's getting to 50%. The price is holding up, so that's conducive of strength for me, and I don't mind the FTSE. We'll see if that can take off. The DAX, I think, is along the same lines. So yeah, it's all looking quite positive. It's a bit of a change from probably a couple of weeks ago. G'day, Ali. How are you? Now, I don't have much on the cards to talk about today. We'll get into or feel free to put into some shares straight away, and we'll just rip into it. We've got a couple on the go at the moment. We've got PME. We got that. Where did we get that? Can't remember. 824. So the day I was actually alerting, I was watching this, and then we started alerting it. It was about 8:10, and then I was nearly towards the end of setting up the alert, and the thing took off. It hit actually 8:22 where I wanted to get in. A break of that, once it traded 8:22, I was happy to go long. So we're into that at 8:24, and it had a big, I think it was on this day. Was that the right high? No, it was actually a couple of days ago, and it traded up to 8:49 that day. So that's looking good. I'm expecting that to take out the highs at 9. I mean, if you look at that weekly price action, it's had a push up, nice little correction or pullback, just clean out a few buys, a little pop up, again, clean out some buys here. And then it was quite solid from the end of last year right into the beginning of this year until we started getting that corrective action. That tied in quite nicely with what was happening globally. But it's only now we're starting to work our way back out. And if anyone watches, what have we got here, MACD, I don't look at it a lot. I've just got on this chart when it pops up and it pulls back to sort of the zero line and it starts curving up. That's just it's solid. It's positive momentum, and it's starting to curl back up. So it's starting to kick on a bit again. So I really do like that. That chart could have a lot of room to move on the upside. Looking for that break of 9, and then we'll just have to see how it goes. Obviously, if it can break up through 9 towards 950, would be looking at a partial there, but it's in clear skies also, and you never really. It's always good to hold off on profit taking until you get that sort of a ramp up and that acceleration higher. And you'll know it's more of a blowout when things just get ahead of ourselves. It starts to kick on hard, and then it's worth just taking some profit off the table then. So that's PME. What else we got? It's looking good. BKL, a slow grinder, but today, so we had this somewhere around 133. We bought it at 133, and that day it was an absolute cracker of an entry, meaning that we never looked back. It ticked us in, and then pretty much continued on for the next few days, right up to 155 where we booked some profit. We got stopped out of the rest somewhere around here. It's played out quite nicely, and you can see the price action. That leg up, for me, if you go back to the weekly, we've had a good strong leg up. We had a big move down. So that's, give or take, 50% retracement of that move up. If you're a Fibonacci aficionado, if I can say that right, a good pullback, maybe a touch over 50%. And then we started to work up. So that there is good, good acceleration higher. Then we've had the move down was more or less in two moves. Pull back here, pop up, another pullback, and then we started to lift again. So what we're looking at here is this being the secondary leg up. And if you measure this out from top to bottom, or bottom to top, and take that from these lows, that takes you probably up into the highs around that 22 mark. So I'm hoping this leg up will start to accelerate and really kick on strong. I think we've got just this little minor high to contend with at the moment, 147.88. We've traded 148 today. We're right there now. So if we can get this into the close, just tick up to say 155 or 150, I think this move up will be on, and it'll start to accelerate because it's spent a lot of time, a good part of a couple of months nearly, just consolidating off those highs and cleaning out a few of these late buys, putting them back on the sidelines and starting to build, some traders who probably bought, if you've got a large position, you bought into some here, you bought that little acceleration up there, and then you're buying into, scaling, continuing to scale in and targeting up towards those highs at 170. That would be ideal anyway for us. We'll just see if that happens. If it doesn't, you'll know because I won't talk about it again. All right. We're all good. Now, what was the other one? I've only got 4 trades on at the moment. BKL have gone through. ATS. ATS is, MYX is what I want to talk about. That's kicked on really nice today. Today's a very strong day. And it's just confirmed the basis for the trend, the basis for the move. And I would expect, and this is why I expect a half decent move now. If you go to the weekly chart, look, the daily, we had this little kick on here. We've spent some time consolidating since mid-June, a bit of a pullback, and then consolidating, pretty much going sideways, range trading, and then it started to kick on. We got long, I think, on this day when it opened up, triggered us in, and then it was down on that day, the next day, and then it started picking up yesterday and today. But today's a nice strong session, and it's the weekly that's the big one, which is what I like. If you just look at this weekly, I'll just draw it up. Is anyone into this? MWH, was it Main Farmer? If not, I wish you were, that'd be nice. So that's the weekly. It's this sort of price action you can see through here. It spent quite a bit of time just chopping around. So I pushed into the lows. We made a lows here, popped up, and that was an important move. This is, what you're seeing is just really sort of a sequence of events that you want to take note of when you're looking for something to base or to find the base to work from, to build your trade from, entry. On a weekly, I don't think it gets too much better. You see the market push down, and if you go just back here, if we make that a bit bigger, it's come off, the highs. It's had this big push up pretty much in 2016 and come off the highs in 2016, spent last year as well heading south. So it found the lows at end of 2017. And this year we've been sort of going through that basing period or that basing price action, which is what we're seeing in here. And we're starting to lift again. So it's got a long way up to the highs, above $2. Where are we now? About 90, 95, 96. So it's got a long way to move on the upside, which, even if we just go up and retest those highs or retest and build a major lower high, you'd expect that to be somewhere around potentially 140 or 50. even if it builds a lower highs, and that's about 50% gainer if we can get up to there. Um, that's up to sort of around this level here. If we can get up to those highs, that would be ideal. So the price action, and it started once we got that pop up through this level. It's around 75 on this move up. That's where you want to really heads up that this trade or this move down is starting to run out of steam. You can see the acceleration was starting to ease, and that's it's the sort of the angle of the descent. You start take notice of that was quite heavy there. Then it was starting to run out of steam. You can see it starting to run out of steam. Then we've got it sort of turning when we started to get a bigger move up and take out a couple of resistance zone or a couple of swing lows is what you're looking at. So that's the first heads up. Then we started chopping around here. Um, and then what we got about this stage, we're starting to build a higher low in comparison to that 60 mark. It was around 65. And again, this low here below 60, it's starting to hold a higher low. And then that week up was an acceleration candle. Then it's pulling back. And it was really that shallow retracement you've really got to take notice of. And you're thinking, okay, this is starting to go from price heading south. Oh, perfect, John. Price heading south to starting to find buying. Buyers are starting to step in at higher levels. This is quite clear. Selling pressure's on. People are unloading. Don't want to be in it anymore. And then it's come to a level or a zone or a price where people are happy to have a dig at it. And then as you get it started to hold up, more and more people are seeing that price action, and maybe the fundamentals behind it too are starting to support buyers stepping into the market. And we can see that with higher lows. They're stepping in at higher levels, which obviously means you wouldn't want to be buying it at higher levels if you're not confident or if you're not keen to be into the market. So that's why we're always looking for higher lows. Then, of course, this acceleration up. So that's sort of your first move up. That's a big heads up that something's happening. Then from there is really looking for that pullback. When we got that pullback, we bought in from the daily chart off confirmation. You can see probably a bit clearer on the daily actually. And we've got this price action. You've got high lows here. We've got a clear level through 90. Bought it through 90. I think it was 90 and a half. 91 and a half. I think it was about 91 and a half actually. Yeah, off the high low. So it's just starting to kick on nicely. So if we can actually measure, I want to see where it can go. If we can measure, actually take a screen snapshot, discard. What I'll be looking at now is really just to see if we can get this move up here. Well, let's take that back one step just to be more conservative. This move up here is what we're looking for. And say that's 70 to 95, give or take, 25 points. If you can take that from around the 82 mark, that would take you to dollar 10, give or take. So potentially we've got another 10-cent move. That's just trying to pick out levels. Now, if that matches off with, so we said $1.10, it sort of matches off probably with this high. So that could take us up into that high. It might be an opportune time if we start to running in a bit of steam there, run into a bit of headway there, to look at booking a partial gain and letting the rest run, or just looking at this as a new whole leg. This could start to accelerate the next couple of days and just blow straight through. So I wouldn't sit there on the offer to take some off. I'll be more inclined to just let it go to see if it can blow through there, and then think about it. If it runs into steam, what am I saying? Run into steam, runs into a bit of resistance there, into selling pressure, then I'd potentially look to take some off there, or just let the whole position run. See if we can get right up to sort of that 150 mark, which is what we were saying before. But we'll see. That one's nice. I think the last one we got is really ATS, and we got out. Did we get out? Oh, nearly. Was that yesterday? We may or may not have been stopped out yesterday. I had my stop at 50. I didn't realise that was on. That might have been on the close actually. That was at just before 3 o'clock. Yep, and I missed that completely. So it looks like we're out. In all fairness, we're out of ATS, which is Austral. Happy to be out of that. I mean, this could come under a bit of pressure. We've just booked some gains, which we booked somewhere around 30, 25% on that second leg, 18% on the first leg. So took a partial up around 18%, 18.29, and then we took about 25% off that second move. So that was a nice sort of one. I'd rather see that sort of reversion to the mean. If we can get that building again, yeah, we'd be happy to jump back in. It's looking stretched, by all means, it's looking a bit stretched up here. Yeah, it could keep going, but probability says get out. All right. So chuck in, just type in some codes of what you want to look at. It can be even a currency if I know a bit of a nab at some currencies, just to see what we're doing there. It's interesting, yesterday too, the CPI inflationary figures come out pretty much in line with expectations. And I think it takes the yearly figure or projected yearly figure to 2.2, 2.1%, which is well within the 2 to 3% target range that the RBA wants inflation sitting at. They're happy to sit and manage it between 2 and 3%. So anything sort of starts to get the top end, that's where we'd be looking at interest rate rises. Down the bottom end, they're just happy to let it go because nothing's really getting out of hand. So I think it came out in line yesterday. So the Aussie actually did tick up. I'll just get up the chart. So that there is the Aussie, and that was price action 11.30. Yep. So this is the price action at 11.30. The market, it was ticking up into a resistance zone. You can see that clear resistance zone around that 74 or 38. The number, although it wasn't what you would have expected, if inflationary figures come out better than expected, yeah, you would have expected this to tick up and keep going and have a stronger rally. But instead, it was just the argy-bargy, the mucking around the price, popped it through resistance. It's triggered some stops. Obviously, if people are short through here, those triggered some stops just up there, and it's reversed on itself. But what it's done overnight is built that higher low, another higher low in here, and just continued on. So at the moment, I think if we get inflation figures that are in line and they start to get a bit stronger, I think that's what the market's gearing up for over the longer term. And we're working off with the Aussie, it's found some fairly serious base around here, some support. Whether that continues on, just go back to the weekly actually. So it could be a prime zone when it starts to lift off here. We'll have to just keep an eye on the Aussie, but yeah, if those inflationary figures up and we start to tick up on inflation, then you would expect the Aussie dollar to appreciate. And it's been probably held down a bit too by lower commodities, the argy-bargy between the US and China, and lower copper prices, lower metal prices, materials. That's probably, and weaker. I don't know if anyone follows the CRB index, the commodity index. That's been fairly weak too. And it's maybe turning around now, which is what maybe we're getting a bit of flow back into the Aussie. But we'll see. I still think maybe the support would hold up around that 73. If not, I would expect a lower high to play out first. A bit of a pop up, bring in some buyers, turn around, squeeze them back out, and then move back down to potentially. I mean, it's got the potential to go back down to 69. This major swing low down right down at 69. There's a few levels to pierce through before that. It looks like initially we're holding up here at about, what are we got there, about 73, 73.30, thereabouts. So we'll see this could just back and fill a bit, hold this trend down, which would lead me to believe it's going to pop up somewhere around 75 and then squeeze these buyers that built up through here. I mean, it could be enough buyers to squeeze and then squeeze them back out and break straight back down through 73. All right, that was just a bit of a touching on the Aussie. Anyone trade the Aussie at all or currencies? Right, what we'll do, we've got a couple of stocks to start on. Anyone else, just put them into the chat and then we'll go over them. What's first? SUL. Super Retail Group. I've got a couple here actually. I thought it was starting to look a bit interesting. We'll just put out an alert on, this is ALQ. I don't know if anyone that's probably doesn't look at it. It could be looking to get a bit heavy, but I just think it's coming into a nice little zone where this leg, especially on the daily, this leg up could start kicking higher. The daily pressure's been holding that support zone around 730. This is on ALQ or ALS Limited. Starting to hold up a nice little zone, which is pretty much an inside support zone. You can see that trend up has been quite strong since through 2016, the start of 2016. been up quite strong. Had a bit of a pullback coming into the end of last year, and with the global market getting sold off, that's probably why we washed out previous lows. Let me thicken that up a bit. Washed out this low, and then we've retraced it. So we've touched up on that 850 zone just recently, backed off from there, but we're starting to look like we're showing pretty solid signs of holding a higher level. You can see stochastics, the buying pressure's really pushed it up into the previous highs, or just a touch below. Then we've backed off, but the selling pressure's been quite heavy. You can see we're pushing down to around that 40% mark, but it's getting held up, and buyers are stepping back in. You can see on the daily too, gone from overbought to oversold, starting to lift again. So the buying pressure's coming back in. So if we can get a push up through the highs at, say 768, and then we can build a higher low, I think this could just start to pick up a bit. It's still got, for anyone that got that alert, anyone that's watching it, what I'm always watching too is just support levels, resistance levels. And this is one that it could be a bit of a, just be careful. I mean, if you buy it, if it does pop up through here, oh, look, it's probably going to break. It's probably going to start breaking up. If we get to say 770, it's looking like it's broken out of that contraction, and it looks like the bulls are starting to take control. You got the big sell-off here, big washout here, bounce, and every time it pops back down, it's touched on, probably washout here, touched at that 730, big washout, 730, 730, 730. So it's touched on that support zone 4 times, really showing some strength. You can see they're starting to get a bit of divergence there as well. Anyone that looks at that, so pop up through say 770 would be nice, and then of course we're looking for that high low to build. Ideally an inside higher low, something like that, on a bit of a pop up, excuse me, pop up, and then pull back to build a high low would be ideal. And then that's a good sign that once you get that high low, buyers are watching the same thing, and they're happy to step in at higher levels, maybe 750 or 60, support higher levels because they're eager to get in for a potential run up to new highs or through that 850 zone, which is up towards these highs, these previous highs way back in October last year. So we'll keep an eye on that one. That's one to have on your radar. What were we just looking at then? SLU. All right. What's this one? Super Retail Group. Have you actually got this, Murray? Do you have this one on your books, or would be nice if you got it? What are we on a week, daily? Right. Let's draw this one up. We'll start with the weekly. Step through the weekly structure of what we're seeing here. From the weekly, I'll look like, well, to me, it's looking like the bears are in control just at this moment. We may be starting to pop out. The important levels, obviously, just in here. Use my little arrows there. And it has touched on, I can't even find where, there we go. It's touched on that a few times, probably about here. And we've got some resistance zone just working at these highs just in here as well. So you've got a major zone through here at about 11, and that's after this move down, pop up. We found selling pressure, and that's taken it down to say 650, and that was only a touch through that $7 mark, which is the previous low. So you would call that, I'd call that a double bottom more than anything else. I wouldn't call it a new leg down. I'd say that we're sort of potentially just stuck in a range where the top's been up towards that $11 resistance zone and around $7. So it's about a $4 range, potentially. What I don't like is that we're just getting up in this level about 9. We've gone from oversold to overbought, and we've got from that support zone popped up to that $9 mark. So whether or not we flush out here, pop up, and then pull back, then I'm potentially looking for an entry long off a higher low for this move up, or we're just going to maybe a bit of a washout here and come straight back down and take out this was about 8 to 810 high low. There's just this high low in here, I think is the key. So it'd be interesting to see. The weekly, I'm not too bullish on. I just wonder how much effort or how much more pressure from or buying pressure could be exerted on that market to push it higher and continue that trend up. Nothing to say it can't. It's just that the weekly start to teeter around that overbought territory. and we happen to be around that $9 mark where it's the third time we touched in there. So potentially it's going to be something like this, a bit of a sell-off again, off that resistance zone. And from there, then, yeah, we could easily, I mean, even from there, you've got markets moved down, popped up. It's a lower high, major, major lower high, because don't forget, this is a weekly chart. It's pushed down, it's taken out that low, and we popped up. Now, if this proves to be another major lower high, this market could easily go back down through 650 and lower. So what you'd want to do is let it play out. I mean, if we're looking for this run up here, just this run up here to see if we can get something out of that, and potentially go from bid to offer. So bid down here at $7 up to the offer pricing around 11. Then it could be a profitable trade. It could be 2 or 3 to 1 in that. But we want to see that on the lower time frames. Now, if we go into the daily is extended up here too. So you really got to ask yourself, if we do get through it, is it just going to be a washout? And am I going to get caught getting stopped into a trade on a breakthrough, potentially 910, which is this high, 905? Say you get stopped into the market at 906, 2 cents above where we are now. Get stopped in, you hold your risk. I wouldn't ever hold my risk way down here. I'd be likely to hold my risk up here, because if it was strong, this leg up should just continue. So we had a leg up, a pullback, flushed out a few buys, late buys, held up through 810. This should be a secondary leg up. So if you're going to buy it through 910, you really should be just holding your stop around 970. Because if you're right, strength should continue. It should take out those highs and just continue on up. And then you're looking for that move up to potentially $11. If not, and we're getting tricked into a trade, there's a bit of a setup where it squeezes you in, you get stopped in, and then it turns around and falls. And that's all part of a bit of a washout of these highs. And then we fall over. You don't want to have your stop way down here, because that eventually that's going to get tagged. So you're better off having it nice and tight. Does that make sense? So yeah, the only reason I'd be tentative on this, because the weekly's starting to get overbought up here. So you could ask yourself, how much more effort from the longer term buyers are there if they're hovering overbought? So maybe a lot of that fuel from move up has been utilized, and the same on the daily chart. A lot of that fuel potentially has been utilized on that move up, just this move up, and we're getting to that retest. So it's an important zone. Yeah, but I'd be more inclined to see it pop up and then wait for a decent pullback to get into. And I want to see these stochastics on the daily potentially go to that 50% or something like that. I don't really like them hovering around overbought, especially when the weekly's not on the rise. It's more at overbought as well. When the weekly's coming up like this, yeah, okay, great. When it's on the rise, the stochastics on the rise from overbought to oversold, that's fine when the daily for me is hovering around overbought, but I don't like them both being up there. I just can't associate a high probability entry for that. I hope that makes sense there, Murray. Anyone, any questions on that? Alrighty. Next is, what do we got here? LNG. Yeah, LNG. To be honest, not a big fan of it just at the moment. I think this weekly, to me, is more sideways to down. I mean, yeah, how much further can it move down considering it's come off $5? It's basically, I don't know how much it's dropped. I can't think of percentage terms, but a lot. It's dropped a lot. Yeah, so just looking at this weekly, just drilling down the last price action, that's come right off 5 with that little pop up. It's pulled back, and if we can draw that up, you can see these levels through here. It was just, we popped up here, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, potentially another lower high. We're getting overbought. So on the weekly, it's just not looking very good, to be honest. Look, maybe it's starting to lift off here, but the fact that it's overbought on the weekly, how many longer term buyers are willing to jump in after you? If you're looking to get in here, yeah, okay. The only sort of thing going for it on the weekly, it's oversold. It's down at some lows around that 50 mark, but you know, never trade like that. I guess I would never trade like that, because it can always go lower. And if it goes lower and gets stuck down there, say 30 cents, and you've bought it at 60, you're down 50%. it's nothing. It's not really where you want to be. Oh, I'm talking about getting sidetracked, but that's I wouldn't be looking at it until it gets through this high. High of 70.5, so it's still a ways off there yet. We're at 62. I'd rather see it push up through there and then look for that high low on the weekly potentially to work from. Now that's going to take some time to play out. And if we go back to that daily, and again the daily, for it to get up through 70 on the daily, you know, how much more effort do the buyers have to put in? So maybe it could squeeze up, have a pullback like this, a pullback. You know, you go from overbought to oversold, buyers start working their magic again and start continuing to push it up, and it could easily continue that grind and then pop up through 70, and then I'll probably be happy to look at it from there. I mean, it sounds stupid because you're working up off 40, but there could easily be some selling pressure from the weekly trend. So you might be buying it on the breakthrough, just for instance, buying it through, what's that high, 63.5. You buy it here, sellers just start having you on the weekly. Longer term sellers start hammering you, and then boom, straight down. But we'll see. For me, the weekly's down, the daily's up, so it's a bit. I think you can find something else. I hope that makes sense there, Ellie. Let me know. But that daily, I mean, the daily's up. It's just, are we getting to the end of that trend up on the daily where we get some further weekly selling starting to hammer it down? Or, you know, are we just going to keep on going, keep on grinding up? Now, anything else? Chucking in, guys. Feel free to put in some codes. Oh, this could be a short and sweet session. And there's another one, Bravura Solutions. It's only a smallie, but I kind of like this. This price action is not looking too bad. You can see that pop up here off $3, and that was on the 13th of July. So the way that's reacted up off that $3 level, and it pretty much touched on just below 330, that's a 10% gainer in the one day. That's quite handy. It doesn't do that for no reason if you've got some serious selling pressure. So it looks like this longer term trend continue. It hasn't had a long life at the moment. Start of 2017. Well, it's a year and a half old. Getting on 2 years. That stock. And that run up's been through, you know, pretty much since the start of this year, you know, little pop up at the start of the year, bit of a pullback, and it's been quite steady since then. So whether the market's got a bit more consolidation to go through, but I've got the feeling it's going to hold up above that $3 level. It might chop around here. We might contract in a bit more. I'd love to see that higher low and lower highs, you know, the point of agreement really contract in on itself and look for that breakout, and that could be a nice strong move up into new highs through 350 and so on. Yeah, that one's quite nice. Gino, how are you, mate? Well, we're now down 4. Nice. Just trying to think of anything else. So what have we got there? AMC. Yeah, AMC. It's kind of funny. Not funny. I'm not laughing about it. I crack myself up sometimes. If you didn't notice, guys. There we go. So this is a weekly chart. I think the context has got to do with the weekly at the moment. I mean, just say you're buying up here from the daily chart. It's going higher. Is it going to come into some selling pressure? It could be right now. It could be very soon. Draw that along the highs there. It may have just broken out today, the last week or so. Either way, the price action, you can see, okay, sort of chopped around here, went sideways. What's the price action before that? Okay, so that was on a tear. It was on a good strong move higher. You can see here it's been rallying. Bit of sideways price action just here that's on the left hand side of the chart. NCZ PME. No worries. I'll get into those, Murray. Juno, 1554. 1454, I was going to say. Ooh, 1454, so it's a touch below where we are now. Yeah, I'd be. There's two reasons. I'll go through it for you, Gina. I'll let you know. Tell me it's good. Look, it is on the daily for sure. Just look at that weekly. This is the problem I've got with it. And the only reason I talk about the strength of buying and strength of selling, the pressure the buyers are putting on, it's got to do. You have to put that in association with the price action. What's the price doing? Now, if I didn't have that, if, for instance, we didn't have this line across here, it actually looks like it's going to potentially build a lower high and then break through that support. But there's a lot more to it than that. I don't mind that. So if we just draw up from left to right, so what we've got, the market's sort of gone so, and this is sort of consolidation through here. Well, let me draw that a bit straighter. Consolidation through here, and don't forget it's come up from quite low. It's been a nice big trend up, consolidation, and it's continued on, breakout, this move up. It's got to the highs through here where it's washed out here. And don't forget, this is potentially what we're doing here. And if that's the case, we could be coming in for a bit of a sell-off. But with all that, we've got the anchors. Well, the anchor's not really here on the weekly chart. We've had this leg up. Change colors. This leg up, pull back, leg up, pull back, push up. So if that's the case, go back to blue. You're sort of not line in the sand, but we could be due for a lower high, and then from there we just have to check it out. What's potentially going to play out? If this is a double top, we've got a washout, only a minor washout, then we start to back off from that high. So what could be happening is just really, you've got this major level down at 12. What could be happening is that we've just had a deeper correction. We just has to probably just wash out that that $14 zone, have a deeper correction just to bring in some more buyers. And what that's done is cleaned out all these buyers pretty much from 14 and above, all up here. If that makes sense. So we've just cleaned out a lot of these late buyers into that trend. The buyers, maybe, if you bought it on that breakup through here, you sat through all this, you didn't get squeezed out here, you're thinking you're doing pretty well when it's popped up here, and you're still held. Sooner or later, the pressure's going to get too much. And once you break through like that, that's probably too much for people, and you've got this little capitulation. But what we've seen is this capitulation on that week here, and then pretty much the next week, bang, that started the up move of what we've seen. So really, we'll get it on the daily. We've got to look at this from two angles, I guess. Is this the start of a good leg up? We're just in the midst of a big correction where we don't know how high it's going to go. We're going to build that major lower high and then get that secondary move down? Or is this just still the longer term trends up? We just had to take a bit of a breather here, clean out a few buys, put it back on the sidelines, and we're starting to move up and we're starting to build again and build a new leg up. And it probably did it, well, honestly, it probably did a similar type of thing here, washed out, bit of a pullback, got a lower high, pressured down, just cleaned out the lows, and then we started with this second leg up, or this new leg up here. So I hope you're making sense. It's really just looking at that weekly and trying to piece together different scenarios which could play out. If we go back into the daily, I think that's the high. No, it's not what I wanted. That's the high just here. All right, so if we draw that up, and we bear in mind what we're thinking with the weekly. I know it's not too precise, but trading's not precise. It's a numbers game. So what we're seeing here is we've had the market's moved down. That's your weekly, your weekly correction. We've taken out that, I think it was 14. This is that major level we're talking about, around 14. We've taken that out. We've had this little base through here at 13, say 60, give or take. The market's pressured down. We've popped through that and pretty much rejected that, and this popped back up. Started retesting it. You can see here and here. Retested it and started building higher lows, and we're working our way back up. Now in here, I wouldn't have probably bought it even off the daily, because I know this overall downtrend is still playing out. If you bought it, I'm guessing you bought it on that little break up through here. We say 54. That's probably about there. Nice entry on the daily. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that entry on the daily. You just know that you probably, and you've cleared that now. Just prior when you bought that, when it's starting to lift, you're coming up against this downtrend, that sort of contraction. Now, if that contraction breaks, which it has the last couple of days, great. That's a good sign. Now we're just really looking to see how this could go. If that's your move up there, you're probably taking this somewhere around 15.20 and really clear out a lot of that. It's a clear sign that we're breaking out of contraction. We're getting extended up here, so that's why I'm inclined to believe that this is your 1-2 moves up. We're getting that secondary move up. We're somewhere in the midst of that secondary move up. And then I'll look at the monthly too. So we're in the midst of this secondary move up. I'm just anticipating it could be going to somewhere around that 15.20 mark, give or take. And then really what happens from there, because we are getting stretched. We're getting stretched. We were stretched last time we had that pullback. So potentially we're getting stretched now. We're going to have a pullback, because don't forget that weekly is starting to look a bit stretched as well up here. So really, if that's the case, we could pop up. I'll be quite tight with my stops on this one. I mean, you got to do what you got to do, but that's the way I would attack it, because I think we could have a pullback, and then I'll be looking for that weekly higher low to work from, and then working a daily entry off a weekly higher low. So I think that's going to have a lot more context to it, because we're breaking up out of contraction. Buys here, we've got to flush out of that low at 1360. We're starting to lift. We're just broken out of contraction the last few days. Probably a bit early to be diving in just yet. I'd rather see, where we've got 1, 2. I'd rather see that weekly pullback potentially, and then start to hold a level and potentially buy it back on the rise on the daily chart when you've got a weekly leg up. And then I think you're going to start attacking up towards 1680 and so on. But we'll see. So it comes down to what the longer term weekly players are going to do. Are they looking like it's getting a bit stretched up here? Yeah, okay. So the potential this to continue is getting a bit lower, and that's got to do with this. This is going to be a bit concerning, that wash out of this anchor level through 14. But then again, I mean, there's a couple of ways to look at it. So as long as you got it in the back of your mind what you could be looking for, and just playing it according to your risk, then great. The monthlies are pretty much in line with the weekly. You've got a good leg up here, pull back, your anchor's here, it's lifted, it's pulled back. Your anchor's confirmed for me, the way I look at it, this anchor's confirmed when you touch on the highs. You don't have to break it. You can come within 5 or 10%, probably 5%, I'd say, for that double top. Once that double top, it's pretty much a confirmed double top, gets traded. That's where my anchor is. And I don't like when when the anchors are broken, and what we've just done is broken that anchor. So this could be a pop-up, build a lower high and have a deeper correction, flash out a few of these on the longer term buys, the really longer term buys, and then start to build again. Or we could just continue on. We could easily trend up to 1550 or so, build a major lower high and then go down. So either way, you probably could have a little bit of fat in that trade. But I'd be pretty, if I could say, pretty tight with my stops there, Gino, just to give it some room, obviously, because you never know what's going to happen. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right, is there anything else? Oh, NCZ. NCZ I don't like because we got stopped out of that. I've got a bias towards this stock now. a hate bias, or love-hate relationship with it. So this here, what we were trading here was that the market's popped up, had this pullback, it's pretty much retested these lows around the dollar. We started to lift. All this price action for me was starting to hold a higher level. We got in probably a touch too early, really. I like the inside levels. They're obviously a bit more risky trading from an inside higher low, but it also gets you into a market early, and you're getting in pretty much the unknown. And you're aiming to get into the unknown, and you're selling when it's the known, because when the outcome is known, every man and his dog's into it, or if they're not, they're those Johnny-come-latelys. That's where you get that fear of missing out. You want to be selling into that. You don't really want to be buying into that when it's the known. So we're always looking to try to get into the unknown, enter into the unknown. Now in this entry, it's probably a little bit premature, which, okay, that happens. I would have been probably a bit smarter to buy on a breakthrough 140, because then you've got that confirmed higher low. It's at a higher level with this leg up, chop sideways, and then buy it when it's back on the rise. And then you're targeting up towards at least 160 and then move up through 160. Could have given us a bit of room to play. Instead, it's backed off, stopped us out. We tightened the stop up there. I just didn't really want to be hanging around when it looked like it was going to drop. So from here, it's really just trying to work out. We clean all that up. Are we going to? I'll take it. It's this latest price action. Are we going to? Let me draw that up. Are we going to? So that's your low through here. That's your high through around that 140. We bought it somewhere around here. Boom, straight back out again, which is a bugger, but that happens. So that's the high there, and that was a low that's just broken through. So it's a bit along just what we said. A lot of the times when the market can't get up, it's had a couple of goes at it. It's had a stab here. You got this lower high, and the market's backed off. We may be either, you don't know whether we've just washing out these lows and we start to build again, and you're buying it through say 132.5. You buy it just above that on stop. Your risk would be down here, and you're looking for this secondary leg up, potentially right up to the highs, like we're saying. Or is this going to be a lower high? Is this going to hold? We're going to back off from that 132 and we're going to start targeting down through 122.5. Who knows? I mean, it's one of those things. That's what trading is. You just got to analyze what's going on. What do you see? Longer term structures, you've got a high low here, potentially a high low working. Maybe it couldn't get through the first time. It's not quite as positive. You've got to have a pullback. That flushes out the most recent higher low with this move here. Cleaned out a few people. There would have been stops under there, exactly where the prime example, stopping us out and then rebuilding again. This could easily chop around here. You've got a minor, very minor double bottom there, which could lead us to a push up through 132.5. Just at the moment, I don't like that price action. I'd rather pull back and build a higher low in here before breaking up through 132.5, then potentially buying that again with a tighter stop. And that's just, it's evidence that buys, I mean, we could easily pop up through 132.5 and it could be that little washout and then we go boom, straight down and we have a deeper correction or test down to $1. We don't know. So what I'd be looking for is that higher low, probably because I was just burnt recently, and I'd rather confirm with some buyers stepping in before me, getting that pullback, higher low, and then start to buy on the rise again. And I think that would be a solid, fairly solid. You might start to get that move up through 140 and get that, taken up towards 160. And you've got this level through here is probably going to be a reason to be concerned. But we'll see. So either way, I'm not in just yet on NCZ. I'm happy just to watch it for now, but we'll see. PME. That's what we just were speaking about that before. 880. Go, good thing. Yeah, I like this. And it's probably got more to do with the weekly than the daily. And the daily is, I really do like it, to be honest. And it's after that strong move up, and then this sideways action essentially, and we've got these high lows holding. It was probably what NCZ could have been. There we go. So this move, ideally down through here, you've got one, pop up, two, essentially two. It's just taking out the lows. Then we started to hold this level at 7. That was pretty much anchored to this down move. Good strong pop up there. Then it started pulling back and holding right up here, and you could see that was lifting every day, higher lows, starting to push up. We got it through just through here, and that was when anticipating that break up and out of contraction. As it's played out, beautifully. Yeah, so we're from here, we're looking for it to potentially continue up to 9 and either tag in 9. We just have to keep a good eye on it to see what happens up there. Whether we take a partial there, I don't want to take a partial just yet, but I'll see. I mean, I'm always prone to taking partials, which is a good thing and a bad thing, but that price action there, spent quite a bit of time. When was that? Since the start of 2018, sort of building this price action. So it's the longer time it's spent, the stronger the move up and probably the further it can go. So I'm actually anticipating it to move through 9 and extending up through 9. And that's just continuing that nice weekly trend. You can see that that's flushed out a lot of traders, but it's still, with respect to this move up, it's held quite nice. And that's probably about a 50% retracement on this move down when it tagged on about 7, just below 7 of this leg up. So it's about a 50% retracement of that. So that would anticipate that's going to move up. So you're taking that level from low to high. What's that? Say 5 up to 9, add $4, potentially up to 11. That would be ideal if we can get it up there before we bother with a partial, but we'll see. We'll have to just keep an eye on that one. So I think either way, Murray, is looking great. All right. What we might do there, guys, LVT. We might finish up with that one then. Yes, obviously, what's the news today? 15 million up 275%. ARR. Oh, forget about that. All right, so the weekly, it's kicked on strong. I could not bring myself to buy it up here, and that's me. Don't care what. I mean, it's times like that. Yeah, the fundamentals could be good, and everyone will be spruiking the fundamentals, especially if you're long. You want everyone else to continue to buy it. But for me, emotions get the best of people a lot of the times, or most times, and you never want to see your profits evaporate. You could buy it with all the good intentions down here, looking for a good move up, but as soon as you get that first sign of a pullback, all your good intentions, for not for everyone, but the bulk of people, goes out the door. And you start trading on emotions. And by on emotions, meaning you don't want to give up the gains. Okay, should we take a partial? Should we just let it run? Should I run it up to my target? Okay, that's a good idea. That's trading. Hang on a second. That could be done because this could be the high. So you're sort of debating in your head what could or couldn't be happening. And when you see a market, if I could look at it from glancing back at it, like from a step back, I'm not involved in it. I'm sort of, there's no real emotions. And if I'm looking at that, I wouldn't buy it off that weekly anyway. The daily to me, it could be running out of steam. So you've probably got that reversion to the mean both on the daily and the weekly. And that could be what we're in the process now. And then you'd be looking for potentially, I don't know, move back to 60 or so, thereabouts. If it's a grind, that's a good sign. And by a grind, I mean, I would like to see price action, say we popped up towards the highs. I want to see price action like this. I don't want to see up and then boom, straight back down, because there's no selling. Sorry, there's no buying willing to step in the way and buy it up on the way down, to average. And a lot of people will maybe average down on a big position. And that's what you probably get with this type of price action rather than boom, straight down. I wouldn't be too positive on that sort of move down. It's pretty much, you wouldn't say the opposite to a V-shaped recovery. It's the opposite. It's a inverted V-shape, when it heads straight down. So I would like to see this kind of move where you're getting buying, stepping in and soaking up that selling pressure, and then ideally look for your higher low, your old, trusty higher low to work from, and look for it to start rising again, because that could easily continue. What it's doing, if you get this type of price action, is taking a lot of heat out of the daily and the weekly, and you're getting reversion to the mean on your daily and also your weekly. Your weekly's probably a lot more reversion to the mean, but it doesn't mean the MAs can't catch up. We could hold the highs, the MAs catch up, and then we go again. But we'll see. So yeah, that's the way I would approach this. From not being in it, I would want that to happen. I don't care what it's saying. I don't care what the fundamentals are. I just couldn't bring myself to buy there, especially off the weekly, because even buying up here, my risk would have to be somewhere right down at 40. So I'm willing to give up 50%. I've got to stop at about 50%. I just could not do that. I'd rather sit on the sidelines. If it does play out, get in. If it doesn't play out, leave it. But if you're in, yeah. If you haven't taken a partial, just think of a partial potentially. It's had a good run up, especially if you're long from this inside level around 50 and you're looking at 65 cents. That's a 50%, just over 50% gain. Very handy. All right. Probably call it a day there, guys. I hope that was helpful. Thanks very much for joining me. I'll be back in on Monday. So if anyone's got any questions, if there's anything you want to contact me on, just send through an email to support at tradesetup.com.au. Anyone that's not in our forum that would like to be, that's our Discord forum. If you don't know anything about that, send me an email and I'll just shoot you out a link and you can join in. There's a few guys in there that trade all day and every day, and we just have a chat every now and then, chuck around some ideas, share some ideas between each other. So if you're not in there, just let me know and I can then add you into that. And yeah, just get involved. If not, anyway, if not, yeah, doesn't matter. So thanks, guys. We'll speak to you again on Monday. Have a great weekend. Cheers and bye.